This is Reed College. Some of you might know Reed. Our most famous dropout was Steve Jobs. This was also my alma mater, and you might recall from that very famous Stanford speech that he gave that he left Reed because he felt ultimately that his experience wasn't worth it. He wasn't really sure if it was worth his parents' investment. So I graduated from Reed. I went on to work at Harvard. I got a degree in journalism from Columbia University, where I studied network theory, business, as well as journalism and digital platforms. And then I was an economic reporter for National Public Radio. So in the 10 years since I had graduated, I had amassed a pretty significant professional network. And yet every year, the only time that I would hear from the university would be when they were asking me for money. And so every year I wrote a memo to the president. I was a very squeaky wheel. I was that squeaky wheel that said, why aren't you doing more for alumni engagement and to enhance career outcomes? I wrote a memo year after year after year until finally they did what you do with a squeaky wheel, which is they stick you on the alumni board. And so that is what I did. So I was on campus one night and decided to go knock on the door of my old dorm room. So this is me having just come from a meeting where we're quantifying like the 15 people that showed up for the pizza party around as an engagement activity. And I knocked on the door and there was a freshman named Martha who was sitting on my bed, my old bed. She's in the white shirt in the middle there. She was an economics major. She was a freshman. She was an international student. She was from Poland, so she lacked a social network that was really going to support her. And she said, hey, I'm looking for an internship. Do you know anyone? A friend of mine that worked at Credit Suisse connected with her. She got the job. She went on to work at the World Health Organization and at the UN. This was a triple bottom line win for the institution. The three reasons are, first, when it comes to enrollment. Enrollment now, students and families are looking at the post-graduation experience that students will have, and so they want to see really strong professional outcomes. Second, from a retention standpoint, what you're seeing especially is that first-generation students really need a constant breadcrumb trail of professional development in order to keep them retained. And finally, from an alumni giving perspective, this was the first time that I catapulted into that $1,000 giving level because I'd had this fresh and meaningful relationship with Martha. So how are universities currently facilitating these connections? Through two ways primarily, and they involve in-person events, so things like reunions or career fairs or networking, some of the issues that other presenters have brought up today. This really doesn't scale. On average, there's one career services officer for every 4,000 students. And while there are job boards, what we find is that really the relationships and the affection between students and alumni are what can be the most powerful and transformative career opportunities. So at the end of the day, really, higher ed's product is hiring, and that's what we're starting to see. When you look at the reasons for enrollment, you find that students are enrolling because they're looking for a better job, they want career training, or they want to be able to make more money. So those are really the primary motivations for that tuition revenue. And when you look from an alumni giving standpoint, what you find is that alumni give more and are more loyal if they had a mentor, if they were engaged professionally, or if they used what they learned in school in their jobs. The problem right now is that young alumni have a very low dissatisfaction rate. So when you look at satisfaction, it's about 38% of young alumni feel that their education was worth it. So what we're talking about is all of those Steve Jobs of the world that are essentially dropping out and not giving to their alma mater. A lot is riding on this satisfaction. When you look at it, it's $62 billion of tuition and $9 billion in individual donations. So how we solved this is really simple. That night at Martha's door was sort of the light bulb moment. We created something called Switchboard. It's very simple. You can think of it as a marketplace for opportunities. This is an example from Cowrie. So Cowrie is an alumna. She just posts a simple ask. I'm looking for advice. How do I ace a Nike interview? You can see that alumni chime in here, and then we quantitatively and qualitatively track her success. And then there's a very easy and obvious opportunity there to prompt for giving down the line because the institution has that metric around that connection. So this is an example of an ask that a student or alum might post. This is an example from an offer. So what we see very often is that those job boards have a very high barrier to entry for young alumni because they're so onerous, they have so many fields, or they might not be the hiring manager. What we see with the rise in the gig economy is that these informal offers, like I'm looking for a Korean speaker for an article translation, are really ripe moments for students and alumni or alumni and alumni to connect. You can see here that we track that story. Clara quickly found someone. I think it's a great fit for the project, and I'll update Switchboard when the transaction's complete. And then that's a very easy opportunity to prompt Clara for giving. So after 2 years of really cracking this code around engagement, we built out this dashboard with MetaLab, the designers of Slack. So we worked very closely with them to figure out what the metrics were around alumni engagement from the Alumni and Career Services perspective. And it's critical that not only do we track user adoption here and user activity, but that we're also tracking the engagement and a variety of other metrics that really aren't being captured in traditional mentorship and job platforms. And then most importantly, from the advancement side, they are paying for email addresses. And so that's what we need to be able to deliver on the back end. So you can think of it kind of like a quantified Quora plus Craigslist for personal and professional development. And we're seeing really incredible results. So what you want to do is get those students onboarded while they're on campus. We're seeing 97% student adoption, 70% post success rate, and the email open rate, which is a really critical metric for this industry, is 5 times the industry average. Our customer, Oberlin, has said, I've seen the future and it is Switchboard. You've created the thing that I've been looking for 10 years. Switchboard allows us to engage effectively without increasing staff time or workload, and it measures that engagement. And we just won the Case Circle of Excellence Gold Award for student and alumni engagement, which is the highest honor in the industry. We're working with about 30 schools, including MIT, Bowdoin, Occidental, Oberlin, Williams, as well as independent schools like the American School of London and Noble and Greenough. And we're also working in different verticals. So this very simple ask and offer framework can be applied to places like we're working with the Federal Public Defender's Office in Oregon to make it easier for ex-offenders to find social capital after they leave the criminal justice system. Our team includes alumni from Handshake, Teach for America, Harvard, and Hopkins, and our advisors come from Evertrue, Carnegie Mellon, User Onboard, and MetaLab. And you can see all of the different applications for this type of platform, from religious organizations to primary and secondary schools to corporate alumni to Greek systems. So Switchboard is giving higher education institutions and communities what they want and what they're paying for. If you would like to get in touch and learn more, this is my email. Thank you so much.